Can money buy happiness? Here's the truth.
It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Brian, I am so excited to talk about this today because I think so many people get it wrong. And I think a lot of people, when they get to the end of their life and they're looking back and reflecting, when you hear those folks who have remorse or disdain about the things that they didn't do or things that didn't happen, I think it's because they don't understand this concept, this thing that we're going to talk about today.
Well, pursuit of happiness is such a concept that, I mean, everybody wants to be happy. I mean, it's that elusive goal that everybody has. You see it, it's in our nation's constitution.
Yep.
You see it in song titles. There's tons of intersections between what we do, dealing with money, and then this elusive goal of happiness. But the thing is I feel like people are just, they're not thinking about this appropriately. A lot of people are very wishful with this desire for happiness, where they'll say, hey, if I have $1 million, my life will be so much easier. And then there's people that are actually somewhat more purposeful, where they say, hey, I know my number. And by the way, we have a course coming out, Know Your Number, learn.moneyguy.com, that will also help you answer that number. But it can be purposeful in the fact that if you know you're trying to build up to like 3.6 million so you can actually leave the workforce and have financial independence, that is more purposeful, but that even is not necessarily going to equate to full happiness / fulfillment that I think we all desire. So that's where today's show is to kind of help people know, what can I expect out of money, and how do I answer that elusive, can money buy me happiness and truly get me to the fulfillment factor that I'm seeking?
Now, Brian, it's so interesting. We sit in a unique spot where we get to work with successful individuals and families from all across the country. We have interacted with successful folks. And so we have some insight into specifically the relationship between money and happiness and fulfillment. And it was interesting. We were talking about in pre-show prep. And you dubbed this. You said, right now, it feels like out there in the world, there's this huge lie about happiness. There is something being sold, and we are being duped around what happiness really is versus what we're being told that it is.
There's definitely a lot of manipulation, misleading, and that's why I do, this is a passion project for me, because a lot of people, I think one of the saddest parts of dealing with successful people and money is to see people sell businesses or come into large sums of money that they always aspired to, and then they wake up the next day and they go, I don't feel any different. And I think the reason, that's why this type of content is needed, is because the big lie is, I don't care if you're talking about social influencers. I don't care if you're talking about the media that we're supposedly getting our news from. I don't care, marketing firms, or even our neighbors down the street, the Joneses that we're trying to keep up with. Everything that is presented to us about happiness is about consumption. And that is just not the reality of what happiness is.
How many times have you interacted with someone or spoke with someone that said, oh, well, if I just get that new car, that'll fix it. Or if I just move into that neighborhood, it'll fix. Or maybe if I can just go eat at those restaurants, or if I just look this way, if I just ... that is the key to happiness. And I don't think that that's the way that it actually works.
No, it's complete sleight of hand. I mean, and you gave some great examples. I thought when I got my first car, like when I was 16, all the ladies were going to be interested in me, and it was false. I mean, I fell for this consumption.
You're a nice cavalier,
no,
right there.
It doesn't. Buying a new car is not going to get you more dates, no matter what that advertisement says. A lot of people, if you're feeling bad about your body image, you don't like how you look, instead of going to the gym, the entire industry out there is just saying, hey, don't worry about going and making yourself better. Just go buy some designer clothes. You just put better clothes on you. You'll feel better. You'll be happier. That's a lie. And then here's my favorite. And of course, I put like the Little John, intro on this is shots, shots, shots. As everybody gets so excited because look at you can't go ride to work and turn on the radio. Now, look, some of these songs, I'm getting a little longer in the tooth. So some of these are a little blasts from the past, but you'll love this exercise. Listen to these song lyrics and tell me that consumption is not equated to happiness.
And I love it, Brian, because you even went with some different genres here. Here's the first one that you wanted to share.
Yeah, the think about, now listen, we had to go find all the clean versions of this, and somehow the A word even shows up in the clean version, but you'll just have to go with me. But there was a song that came out with Pitbull and Neo, and it's called Time of Our Lives. Now, hear me out. Here's the lyrics. I knew my rent was going to be late about a week ago. I worked my A off, but I still can't pay it though. But I got just enough to get up in this club, have me a good time before my time is up.
It's all about a good time.
That is YOLO. You only live once. I'm telling you, you're going to more than likely live to a ripe old age, so plan accordingly. But we won't just pick on Pitbull, because I think if me and Pitbull hung out, we'd actually be friends, so I don't want him to think I'm picking on him. So let's talk about 7 Rings by Ariana Grande. Now, here's the thing. First of all, my favorite things from The Sound of Music is a classic.
Right.
And since she straight up ripped off this song, 90%, I researched this is how nerdy I am, 90% of what she makes off this song goes to the writers of My Favorite Things.
Really?
Because this is literally a rip-off song. But here's the lyrics from that. I see it, I like it, I want it, I got it.
A lot of consumption in there.
I didn't hear any deferred gratification. It was all about consumption, and happiness is going to make you happy because you'll feel more like Ariana Grande. And then, look, we're even going to pick on our neighbors. Chris Jansen,
right down the street.
Buy me a boat. Listen to this lyrics. I know everybody says money can't buy happiness, but it could buy me a boat. It could buy me a truck to pull it. It could buy me a Yeti 110 iced down with some silver bullets.
So it sounds like the key to all of these things is if I can just buy this or experience this or get this, I'm going to be happy. It's going to make me happy. And there are number 1 hits out there suggesting that that's the key and the secret and the way to happiness.
Well, all of this, and remember, we called this the big lie, but the reason they can get away with this, and this is something, y'all know, my youngest daughter is autistic, and she has this unique thing right now where she keeps asking me to pull up YouTube videos explaining why mobile app ads lie. And if you play video games, you know what I'm talking about. These things are bait and switches. But this is how they can get away with this, because there is a little sliver of truth in everything they're doing here, because what the public is pushing out there with the media, the social influencers, all this talk of consumption, is they're talking about hedonic happiness. This is the pleasure component, the short-lived part of happiness. And that's what I'm telling you, is that this is the syrupy sweet part that gives you that sugar high, but it just disappears so quick.
And this is actually, there are physiological things that happen right inside your brain when you get that hit of dopamine from things like a really good meal, or going out and buying something, or buying a big thing like a car or a house or a boat. Literally, your brain physiology changes so that you get that chemical hit that makes you feel happy. But it's like you said, Brian, it is short-lived and it is temporary. It does not stick.
And this is a human condition, is that once we feel something good, once we have pleasure from something, we want more of it. We're like, yeah, I want more of that. So, but the problem is, since you want more, it's that insatiable appetite that you just can't quench. You can get enough of it. And by the way, if this was actually the truth to happiness, if you think about this, we would be really looking at lottery winners as the poster child of what success looks like.
Because they can buy anything.
Yeah,
they can go out and have all the happiness
you're just
they
an
want.
ordinary person. One day you win the mega millions/billions, whatever we're up to with the mega lottery that's going on. And these people get hundreds, they get millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. But here's the reality of it. 70% of lottery winners lose or spend all their winnings within 5 years. I mean, that seems
they
crazy.
Must still be looking for more happiness, right? Like, obviously, if they had all this money, had all this windfall, had the ability to go out and buy all these things, and yet they run out of money, it must be that those things that they were buying were not satisfying it. They were not fixing the problem. They were just really a distraction from perhaps what the bigger problem is.
Well, remember, this is a sugar high. So what happens is, let's take the lottery winner. They go out and buy the new car, they buy the new house, they buy the new boat, they load it all up, and then they wake up after they bought all that stuff and like, man, I kind of still feel the same, and I got back to my normal base level of happiness. Maybe I didn't buy enough. Maybe I didn't do it right. And this is what drives them to zero. And everything that they're doing from a behavior standpoint, y'all have heard this concept if you're a financial mutant who's been listening to our content. This all ties back into the hedonic treadmill. What's so funny is that you will go and just load up your life with buying and doing and thinking, and then you'll find out, wait a minute, even though I did all these things at once, I'm in the exact same place of happiness. Now, Bo has the fancy definition. I'll let him share that.
Yeah, this is the actual definition of the hedonic treadmill. It describes the tendency of humans to quickly return to a stable level of happiness after major life changes. Now, I know our natural tendency is, no, we're financial mutants. We're not subject to this. We don't succumb to this. I'm going to share a personal example for me, because I had this conversation with you, Brian. When my wife and I, as our family was growing, we decided that we wanted to have a larger home on a bigger piece of land so that our kids could run around and play. And I remember we had that first house built, and percentage-wise, it had a higher percentage of square feet than my previous one, right? So it was a bigger house. And I remember telling you, for like the first, I was like, Brian, this is unbelievable. I walked from my bedroom to my kid's bedroom. Oh my gosh, it's just so big. It's so spacious. I've got all this room. And now, as we sit here today, my wife, oh man, feel like we're on top of each other, we're bumping, because now that's just the norm. We all adjust. What seems to be so unique and what seems to be so exciting, what seems to be so top tier just becomes normalized, because our human mind has an incredible ability to adapt to change and assume that that's the new baseline.
Well, that's why, like new cars. You go buy a brand new BMW, you crank it up, you love the sound of that engine, and then you smell the leather and you see all the gauges, and you're like, oh, this thing is just the greatest. But then, fast forward 2 or 3 months in the future, you're still driving to work and going, yeah, it's just a car.
Just a car.
It's just a car. And that's the problem with the hedonic treadmill, is that we have an insatiable appetite. And that's why, guys, when I'm talking about deferred gratification, I know we use that as the primary driver for a lot of when you're building, goal seeking and trying to build, as you're envisioning that great, big, beautiful tomorrow. It's actually a superpower that's going to help you in your happiness journey as well. And that's why we wanted to share what are some tips and tricks you can do to avoid the hedonic happiness trap. And I want to kind of go through these. The first thing I think is, because everybody's pushing consumption upon you, let's get really deliberate with separating when you spend money. Is this go into, there's 3 categories. There's the need column. Hey, this is what I need to put food on the table for my family. This is what I need to have shelter over my head. This is, what I need to have clothes on my body. That's something you can't get away from. And then there's, of course, love. Things that you love to do, like if you like to travel, things that make it just worth living and enjoying life. You need to know what those things are. I want you to spend some time on that. So needs are important. Love, the things that you love doing are very important. But then there's this third column, wants. And that's just not as healthy, because it's just something you're like, that'd make my life a little bit better. I'd kind of like to have that. That's not at the same level as a need or a love.
Now, what's really interesting is we have an upcoming show that you guys will get to see. We're talking about relative wealth, right? Because it's this really interesting concept that we're going to dive into. In the world in which we live, sometimes we have a really difficult time discerning what are those things that we really need. Well, do I need a new car? Do I need the new wardrobe? Do I need the fill in the blank? That's why we put the love in there. There's nothing wrong. Don't mishear us. There's nothing wrong with consumption. There's nothing wrong with buying new cars. There's nothing wrong with buying expensive coffee if that's the thing that you love. But you need to discern how it falls into your consumption behavior. And is it something that I actually love, or is it just something I kind of want? Is it just something that I could walk away from? And if you can figure that out early on, you'll prevent yourself from just getting in this trap where all these nice things, the nice coffees, the nice cars, the nice whatever, don't just feel like everyday, mundane, trivial purchases that you're making.
Well, you hear there's a lot of other consumer advocates and people in the financial space who say, like, if you struggle with this type of stuff, go put your credit card actually in a cup of water and freeze it and do all these things. I kind of do my own version of this. I put a forced waiting period on once by over researching. I mean, but here's what I think that I would encourage everybody to understand. When I go on, I have a tendency to hyperfocus, and I think a lot of financial mutants, you probably are the same way. So if I see something I will, I'll immediately have this burning desire that I need that. Like when I go to a neighbor's house, I remember the first time I saw a big green egg smoker, and I had wings, smoked wings off of it. And I was like, oh, well, I need to go buy this thing. So I over researched.
Sure.
I will tell you, I ended up buying this because it fell into that love column. But I researched this thing for a good month and a half to 2 months on what size, which brands, what accessories. And the reason I do that is because there's other things in my life where I've done them, and then I'm like, I don't really need that. And it came to the realization because I was over researching and my more sane, stable brain overtook. So I'm encouraging you, because you can do this on trips. If you can figure out if it's a want or a love, when you're planning that trip, by over researching, because it puts an automatic waiting period so that hopefully that striking desire that you're burning up with to do this will have a time to subside down to something more normal, and your normal brain, your rational brain, will step in and actually decide if this is something you really need to do.
Another thing that you can do to kind of help with that normal, rational part of your brain is figure out how to rotate your I can't even say what that's a genius phrase. Rotate your happiness crops. If there are things that bring you happiness, that give you that dopamine hit, try to stretch them out. The example that you came up with, Brian, is if you love eating out, and eating out is a thing that you enjoy, and breaking bread and being out in public with other people, don't eat out every single night. Put some scarcity around those and figure out how you can spread those things out so that they're still special, they're still nice, they're still things that you enjoy. Again, they just don't become everyday, plain, and boring.
Well, you can love something to death.
Sure.
I mean, the reason I said rotate crops, and I use crops on purpose, is because anybody who's around agriculture or farming knows if you plant the same thing over and over again, all of a sudden you wonder, why is it not fruitful? Why is it not generating the bumper crops that it was previously? It's because you sucked everything good out of the ground. You have to rotate. You have to spread things out so that there's a regenerative process. I don't like it when you see this with a relationship. You see this with consumption. You see this. If you do things too much that you love, you'll numb yourself to the point that you actually kill the happiness part of it. So that's why I'm saying spread it out. And we see this. Remember, we'll go back to the lottery winners. The big mistake I see people, like, let's say you come into a windfall. It could be from a lottery. It could be from an inheritance. It could be from selling a business, selling some land. I always try to tell people to slow it down. You don't have to make big, fast decisions, because the worst thing you can do is what that lottery winner typically does is they go and they buy exactly in the order. They go buy the car, they buy the house, they buy the boat. They start just throwing money around, and then they're surprised because they do all this. They cram it all into about 3 months to 6 months, and then they come out the other end and go, gosh, I still feel the same way. If you're going to spend money, I'm thinking about purchasing the car, buying the new house, spread that stuff out. I mean, that's why whenever somebody comes to us with a windfall, I really do try to have coaching about, hey, congratulations. Now you need to kind of let's build in our own waiting period through planning of, hey, let's write down the next 3 to 5 year goal list. Maybe, okay, your wife needs a new car. Let's talk about that. Okay, y'all want to buy another house. You want to upgrade your house. When should we do this? Oh, wait a minute, we don't need to do the lake house yet. Let's wait. We just bought the new house. Let's kind of spread out the lake house. And what I'm trying to do as a coach is to encourage this person to enjoy each of that sugar high you get. You let that be a fun endeavor, absorb it, but then you rotate that pleasure crop to move on to something else for a period. Enough time goes by that then when you go buy the next thing, you get the same high. If you do all this on top of each other, you're going to come out on the other end and be like, what happened? That just wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
And you need to understand that when it comes to making these decisions, there's a gravity to them. You need to understand the biggest money pitfalls. If you're going out and buying coffee every day, that is a different thing than you making the decision to go buy the lake house. And with the lake house, you got to put in the dock. And with the dock, you got to get the boat. And with the boat, you got to get the Sea-Doos. And all of a sudden, your financial situation has changed because you fell into that hedonic happiness trap. You got on that treadmill of consumption. Make sure you pause and take a step back and figure out, okay, is this something that I actually need and love, or is it just something that I want? Again, there's nothing wrong with buying a vacation home or buying a lake house or getting the boat or getting the Sea-Doos assuming you've done the appropriate planning and it's not an impulsive, hedonic decision that you are making.
Well, I feel like we've thrown enough cold water.
Sure.
People are going to be like, do these guys even know what happiness is? Because, I mean, they have just all the fun things that you think money can do for you, whether it's buying the car, going out to the nice restaurant, buying the better house. These guys just threw cold water on all of it. So come on, help us out. Let me tell you where happiness really does reside. And this is going to be, I love that we actually get to tell you that when people talk about happiness, I think they use the word wrong. They really mean fulfillment.
That's right.
And I got some bad news. Like most things that are important and worth doing, happiness is actually a little bit of hard work.
It's not easy.
And what I mean by that is that there are some homework and things you have to do to make sure you do this right. And I always talk about this is the big W's, the whys and the won'ts. You know, you hear us if you watch any of our content, we're always very purposeful talking about you need to know what the why is on about everything. Because if it's just to make money, or just to get to $1 million or $3 million, there's no why there. You just can't tell me, hey, you want $3 million? Why? Tell me why, because it's going to be much more purposeful if you actually know why you're trying to get to this goal.
And one of two things will happen if you don't know the why. Either you won't have the staying power to move towards that goal, or when you get to that goal, you'll move the goalpost. And we see one of those two things happen in almost every circumstance when the why is not clearly defined.
Well, because the moving the goalpost is another way of saying you don't know what enough is. Because you will need to figure out what's enough, because that's where you're going to have to know where those borders are. Because otherwise, I've already ruined it for you. There is an insatiable hole to fill with happiness. So you need to start figuring out what is your why, what do you love doing so that you can do more of that, and then what are your talents and aptitudes? Because you're going to find out it's not a lot of what you do in life that brings the happiness and the deeper happiness, which is the fulfillment, is feeling like what you're doing actually has value. And that leads to, and I've got a fancy word here, eudaimonic. So eudaimonic is just like we talked about hedonic treadmill, hedonic happiness, eudaimonic happiness. And look, I feel like I had to set this up for you guys, is that because I didn't make this all up. There's a lot of researchers, there's a lot of people trying to figure out how money and happiness work together, but they figured out eudaimonic happiness is the happiness that's going to last much longer. It's not a sugar high. This is actually true happiness. This is fulfillment. Bo, I see we have a definition slide. Tell them what eudaimonic happiness means.
Eudaimonic happiness is simply happiness that's achieved from a sense of meaning and purpose, or feeling like what you do matters to the world, what you are doing, what you are participating in matters. It's the difference in happiness, sugar sweet, dopamine hit, and fulfillment, and maybe even, I'm going to throw the word contentment in there. It's a different strata, a different level of happiness.
Well, and this is why when we do estate planning for successful families, you don't want to give the kids $3 million when they're 22 years old. It's because it's going to ruin them.
It's going to blow through the hedonic part of
run out, buy the Lamborghini, they're going to buy the house. They're not going to have the wisdom, the maturity to know how this all works together with money, happiness, and purpose. Whereas think about the person who sells their business for $40 million. Why does that work better for them? And I think the reason it's longer lasting and the reason you can give somebody different more and they don't have the same traps that a lottery winner has is because it's more purposeful. And that's what some of the examples that are provided for what is eudaimonic happiness is like if you write a book.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of work
that
believe
goes
me,
into it.
I know what goes into writing a book. When I come out the other side, there will be a side of fulfillment built from going through this journey and coming out the other side in a better place. Starting a business, same thing. You go that road less traveled, you come out on the other side, you survive it, and you're like, wow, that gives me a lot of purpose. I've shared my childhood best friend, his father was a $7 an hour welder, got laid off, started a metal fabrication business. And I remember every time I ever talked to him about his success, he had that it was, you could tell he was talking to you, but he was going to somewhere else, a more nostalgic, happier place, because he was thinking of all the struggles. He was thinking of how he came through the struggles and created financial success for his family, legacy for his family. That stuff happens. And then, of course, career achievement. But don't take my word for it. You guys know I love the late Dr. Stanley's research and work and writings. He did The Millionaire Next Door. Well, I told Daniel when we were doing the show, I said, I know Dr. Stanley talked about how career achievement was so much more important for millionaires than just the dollar figure. I said, go find me that quote. And this is what he came back with.
Yeah, this is from Stop Acting Rich and Start Living Like a Real Millionaire. It says, it has much more to do with being financially independent and secure than owning prestige brands. High self-esteem is related to achieving financial independence. Both the sense of achievement that comes from success and financial independence lead to happiness and life satisfaction, not meaningless badges.
So, I mean, we got to get to work here, guys. You got to figure out, what are you actually trying to build, within your career? What are you saving for so you can do the things that you love more often? So it's back to, we got to know what you need to do life on your terms. You actually own your time. Do what you want, when you want, and how you want. And that's why you've really got to know what your number is.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so interesting. We actually use the term all the time, financial independence. And we very specifically use that as opposed to retirement. Because when the folks that we interact with reach that level, we want them to truly feel independent, where they can do what they want, the way that they want, on their terms. That's financial independence. Retirement is this construct of, I'm just leaving a job. I'm just walking away from this job. We think that it is more than that. And the way that you reach that place, that state of mind, is by knowing what your number is and knowing how to work towards your number.
Yeah, we've tried to, I know I've tried to go beyond just the mathematics. And part of the homework, we have a new course out called Know Your Number, where not only will give you the answer of what you're saving for, but it'll also help you do the homework to figure out what's purposeful, what do you love to do. So I would encourage you, go check it out, learn.moneyguy.com. I think you'll find value in it. And then here's something that I think is also not looked at, because we talk about money all the time. A lot of this eudaimonic, did I say it right? Eudaimonic happiness, which is the much more long-lived happiness. It's very selfless. And I'm talking about volunteer work. I'm talking about giving to charity. That whole adage that it's better to give than to receive. And guys, we know this personally, firsthand through the abundance cycle. We have experienced this. So I think you'll find that really fulfillment goes beyond the money. It really is having that purposeful life. And that's why I want you to really put a lot to this. And that's why we went ahead and put together, what are some tools and tricks that you can do to build that why can I not say this
eudaimonic.
Eudaimonic. I don't know why I'm falling apart on eudaimonic.
Eudaimonic.
I did this a gazillion times in pre-show prep, and now it's falling apart. But we can help you build that long-term happiness, and we got some tips for you.
Yeah, so here's the first one, and you hear us talk about this all the time. Write down your goals and dreams. This is basically defining what your why is. It's amazing all the time. We'll have a prospective client reach out to us and say, hey, I love the show. I listen, I want to start this. And we'll ask them some questions about their financial situation. And we'll say, okay, well, what do you want this money to do for you? Oh, I don't know. I'm just kind of, but do you want to own a home one day? Do you want to start a family? Do you want to be able to retire? Do you want to start a business? What are the goals and dreams that you have? And then even if they're far away, because young folks sometimes have a hard time with this. Oh, I'm 30 years old. I don't know what my goals and dreams are. I'm just trying to get through this messy middle, because man, is it messy. That's okay. If we can at least define the idea of what those are, then the decisions we make today can make sure we align with those goals and with those dreams. And it'll help you from going off track or getting out of whack with what really matters to you.
Yeah, I like, because planning also lets you really just know where you are and what you put value to. And that's why, we have talked about generosity as step 0 in our financial order of operation. I think that if the media, the influencers, and everybody is telling you consumption is where happiness goes, you should probably recognize that real fulfillment, the deep part of happiness, is the dire exact opposite direction of consumption. It's actually being selfless And that's why I do think, and look, I know, especially if you're somebody in your 20s and 30s, which is the largest part of our audience, you're like, I don't have money. That's okay. You can be generous with your time, your skill set, your knowledge. Just find some way to be selfless, because if you don't have a lot, it's interesting that the more successful you are with a little, you'll do much better. You'll be successful with a lot too. I mean, there's something to going ahead and training yourself, even when you don't have a lot of resources, to have that mindset that you will be successful from both a happiness, from a financial. You'll have checked all the boxes, so you're not that lottery winner that hits the goal and then burns through it and is still empty inside. This is going to help you if you kind of understand you need to be selfless. And then the last thing, Bo, I thought this was not necessarily the last thing, but it's the combination of combining the eudaimonic, which is the long term, as well as the hedonic, which is the short term sugar high that you get from happiness. You can combine these things.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. We keep talking about eudaimonic happiness and how it's this idea of this long term out there in the future thing, but that might not necessarily always be the case. It is possible to have that type of fulfillment in short bursts. You had this really great example, Brian, where you said you can cook a meal, right? Having a good meal, the taste of a good meal, the satiation from that gives you this hedonic hit. But if you invite people over and you have friends who you're building a relationship with, you're spending time with, that actually starts to hit on the eudaimonic piece. I think this is so interesting because I've learned this firsthand. My wife's birthday is coming up here in a few days. I have made the mistake in the past over and over again of I try to hit the hedonic piece. I'll try to, what can I go buy, or what can I go da-da-da-da. And I fail miserably every single time if I go try to buy her something. If I do some sort of idea like, hey, you know what? We're going to go out to breakfast, hedonic, and then me and you and the girls, we're going to go for a long hike, right? That cost me no money. It was not a hard thing to put together. She will enjoy that birthday present so much more than if I went and bought her something expensive and nice and whatever. And I think it's because deep down inside, we understand the difference. We just trick ourselves into not recognizing it.
Well, because everything you just experienced, that eudaimonic, God, why am I? Eudaimonic ties into the memories.
Yep,
and we all know
right.
Memories blossom. That's what my favorite part is, that things, when you create experiences, that's why experiences is always better than stuff, is because it has a tendency. Stuff goes away. It decays, it gets donated, it sits in your closet. But memories blossom, even if it's something that's bad. Like, we had somebody touring the office last week and they were talking about they're traveling with like a 3-month-old. They'll look back on that down the road with fondness, even though in the middle of it, it's going to feel like the messy middle chaos. So pay attention to that. And here's something else, and this ties back into that stop acting rich, where being purposeful with your life. Invest in skill mastery. Who would have thought that the 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell made famous, talking about Outliers, actually could make you feel purposeful? Because if you know you're good at something, I mean, I love, it's one of those things where I get a lot of value when neighbors talk to me about things that are going on in their financial life, when people at church talk to you, when you go on vacation. It is great. And I think it does give me that giddy up for life when you know that you're good at something and people recognize that. So invest in mastering some type of skill.
And I think what's so interesting, and Brian, I'm going to give you tons of credit for this. You always tell me, hey, Bo, look, hey, just slow down, take a deep breath. It's the journey, not the destination. It's the journey, not the destination. Well, skill mastery is just one example of being on the journey. Part of putting in the time and putting in the work to become excellent or great at something might be better than the end result of actually being great at that thing. So if you can recognize that and make part of the journey part of your happiness, I think you'll have a much brighter outlook on the here and now and the present, and not constantly just living in the future days.
And then this one, it came so close to getting the Jimmy John fisherman story in there. It's focused on building community. And what I mean by this is that, when people think about what really brings them value in life, a lot of times, and this is the whole deathbed statement, nobody wishes they had worked more and things like that. People really wish they were spending more times with their friends, their family, focusing on something outside of them and even this world with their faith and their spirituality. You got to make sure you have quality over quantity too, because it's not one of those things where There's nothing that says Kim Kardashian, because she has a gazillion followers, is more happy and hits this. No, we're talking about quality of relationships where you have somebody on the weekends to hang out with. You have something that's beyond you that gives you purpose in life. When you wake up in the morning, you feel like you're making the world a little bit better. That's what focus on building community is. And then, Bo, I always give you the compliment because you deserve it. Is that this last one is say thank you well and often. That's always been your superpower. Sure. All through our working together, you've always been a person, when somebody does something very nice for you, you say thank you well, and you mean it. And I think that's something I've tried to express to my kids. I don't know if it's sticking, I'll be honest with you. I mean, because this is something I talk about because it sounds so simple, but nobody does it. But I would challenge you. Are you out there building happiness not only for yourself, but for all the people around you? Because I think there is something contagious about this deeper version of happiness that the researchers gave a very complicated name to that I struggle saying. But it is something. I want you to know the difference between the hedonic treadmill and the always cycling through, and you just can't get ahead, to these longer term decisions you can make that actually, when you wake up, you're like, yeah, I know why I'm on this planet. I know why I'm doing this, and I know what makes me happy. I know what I love, and I know who I love doing it with, and I'm going to do more of that.
And look, we're going to keep trying to give you the tips and solutions and tools to be able to make the most while you're on that journey. If you've not checked out the website, make sure you go check that out, moneyguy.com. We have a resource page that is full of resources available to you that you can take and use. And then if you want to do an even deeper dive, if you like what you hear on this show, but you want something extra, you want something deeper, you want tools that you can actually get your hands on, I would encourage you to go check out our courses. You can go to learn.moneyguy.com. You can check out the Financial Order of Operations course. You can check out our brand new hot off the presses Know Your Number course. Or if you're not tracking your net worth statement, if you're not doing the annual exercise, I would encourage you, go start today. Go download our net worth template and start doing it today so that you can begin figuring out, are the decisions I'm making right now aligning with the person and place that I want to be in the future? And using a net worth statement every year to do that will help make sure you stay on that path.
Because normally I just say Money Guy team out or whatever, but I want you guys to know this show is something special, because I've seen too many people, you build up a few $1,000,000 and you think you're going to be super happy, and it just doesn't work out that way. Heed what we talked about on the show, because this is the balancing act of knowing what you're saving for, but also making sure that it's purposeful and good for you. And this is one of the reasons I like doing this type of content, is because I feel like I am your tour guide. Me and Bo both are working towards making sure you're purposeful with your life and you get the best version of not only your financial self, but also when you leave this earth, that you'll feel good about, did I do it right? Did I maximize the opportunities? And that's why this is not necessarily the show that I think a lot of people love about us with the nuts and bolts and calculations, because we're nerdy about that stuff. But this is the person who's walked in the journey from not having money to now being at a place where I have resources, and also working with a ton of people around me who have a lot. And I'm telling you, this is the heavy part that you got to make sure you spend some time on if you're going to do it right. Now, I don't know if we lost everybody before they get to hear that closing, but do your homework on the happiness factor, and I think you'll find out that life is just going to be that much sweeter for you. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hanson. Money Guy team, out.